Hey everybody, welcome back to PathMonk Presents. PathMonk is the AI for website conversions. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in their buying journey separates you from the competition online. PathMonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50% by adding PathMonk to your website in seconds, letting the artificial intelligence do all the work, and increase conversions by 50% while you keep doing marketing as usual. Check us out on pathmonk.com. Welcome back to another episode of PathMonk Presents. We're really looking forward to today's conversation because we've got Stephanie, the marketing manager over at ClaimMD, joining us for today's call. How are you doing today, Stephanie?
I am wonderful, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course, we're looking forward to chatting. So, before we dive a little bit too far into the nuts and bolts about what's going on from a marketing perspective over at ClaimMD, why don't you give our audience a little bit of a background about ClaimMD in your own words? Tell us about the company. What's it all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So ClaimMD is a claim clearinghouse. We, in an ideal world, are kind of the invisible helper when it comes to healthcare. Typically, you wouldn't see us in your healthcare journey. We are essentially the highway between providers and an insurance company to make sure that claims get paid and keep that ecosystem going. So if you were to go to a doctor and they give you a bunch of things that you need to do at your doctor visit, you were checked out for a wellness visit, you had a cold, they mark a claim down, they send that off to us. We make sure that they get paid, that you pay what you're supposed to pay for your coverage, and the insurance company does their part as well. So
A, a
that's what we're
very
part of doing.
a very important part of the overall process for sure. Without that, things would definitely fall apart.
Absolutely.
So, I want to, of course, focus a little bit on marketing and growth. That's what this conversation is all about. So to start, why don't you tell us a little bit about those companies that you're kind of helping or working with? I know like it's very specifically healthcare related, right? And more so within the healthcare insurance area. But if I was to say like, who are the companies that you serve and what sort of problems are you solving for them? How would you answer that?
Absolutely. So essentially who we tend to help are providers, physicians, anybody that can run a claim. That's who we typically serve. We have, mom and pop providers that will be maybe two doctors in a facility, and we'll take care of them. And then we have entire health systems that we also help. But anybody that can run a claim, we are there to help. We also help medical billers and coders. Sometimes if it's a big enough group, they will kind of offload the billing. Hospital systems have entire billing departments, so we kind of help with that piece being streamlined and expedited. So essentially, when these claims are sent out, they get paid faster so that they can keep on moving with their operations and nothing slows down. We have seen that happen before when mega disruptions happen in the healthcare system. So we are here to make sure that those things keep moving. We also will integrate with EHRs, which are electronic health records. So when you go into, again, to your doctor and they're typing in, your allergies and what's going on with you, your weight, all those fun things, that goes into a system that we would also be on the backside built into sometimes. So that's where
You know, I've always
that's
kind of
who we
been
report to.
curious, like what are you typing on there, doctor? And I never really.
It's like he looks happy.
Yeah. So that definitely answers one of my curiosities. But this also moves me on to question number three because it seems like your primary target audience are like these providers, right? Whether they're small mom and pop offices or whether they're much larger group offices. So how do these clients find out about you? Like, do you have any sort of top acquisition channels right now? Is it more of word of mouth, or are you guys doing like a lot of organic SEO? Like, how are new clients finding out about you guys?
That's a really good question. It's kind of a whole different, a whole cut. Hang on, cut. There we go. Hmm. It's kind of a multi-pronged approach. For a while, ClaimMD was really successful in sort of a grassroots sort of outreach, a lot of word of mouth. We would integrate with a system, and then they would spread what we do and share that we are their clearinghouse of choice. And then from there, providers might onboard with us. But now that we've gotten so active in our marketing efforts, a lot of LinkedIn decision makers, of course, live on LinkedIn, but even some might not be considered your classic decision makers. Sometimes the medical billers and coders are the ones that are really the boots on the ground that understand what is needed in a clearinghouse, and they're the ones that are really pushing for these decisions to be made. And again, LinkedIn is a great place to find them. Of course, Google Ads, that's another big one that we live on. I would say conferences actually is another big channel, and a
Hmm.
lot of the run up for conferences is where we really find those connections start, is before you even meet the people that you are going there to meet and making these connections. A lot of these conferences have newsletters. They will give you an opportunity to post blogs, to share your mission before you even get there, and then after the fact, those relationships that you start to foster beforehand during the conference, you can really nurture afterwards as well.
Interesting. Yeah, in a different lifetime ago, definitely I worked in kind of like the data area for big pharmaceutical companies.
Mm,
And what I didn't know before I kind of joined that industry was how large some of these healthcare conferences could be, right? And it seems like they're massive. So, yeah, getting into one of those could be a really helpful opportunity. So, yeah, the classic, like you said, Google Ads, word of mouth, definitely work really, really well. But yeah,
of
I'm
course.
not surprised to hear you say conferences because in me personally, I know how big those can be, and I know how a lot of companies, individuals, organizations see those as an opportunity to kind of gain some really much needed exposure.
Absolutely, and it's interesting because there are some very, very big conferences where 50,000 people are showing up, and
Yeah.
they have, I mean, every tech thing that you can think of is being represented there,
Yeah.
installations that are enormous. And what's been interesting in the conference circuit that as we've been exploring it is not every conference is a fit. And even though it might be the biggest, shiniest one,
Hmm.
finding the conferences that really are going to be where you're going to have honest conversations, real conversations, authentic connections with people. Do the exploration. Don't just pick one because it is the top one with attendance and with
Hmm.
the money that's able to go behind it. Those might be a fit for some, but they're not a fit for everybody. So explore. There's so many great conferences and even just simple summits that are conferences of people coming together and having conversation where there's not even booths. It's just bringing, wisdom together in a space, and we all talk and we get to make these connections that we're sitting at a table together. Those are great too. So, as wonderful as these huge conferences can be and really exciting and exhausting, don't be afraid to also explore the other side of the smaller ones that are more intimate, because there's a lot that comes out of those that are really have been really valuable to us personally, and I can definitely sing high praise to.
Yeah, well said, well said. Okay, so I want to continue on the idea of client acquisition, but kind of flip it over to like how your website is currently performing, because
Mm.
ultimately, like PathMonk is a tool all about website conversion. So we'd like to hear what some of our podcast guests are doing to make sure that they're getting as many conversions. What role does your website currently play in terms of client acquisition? Because when I was reviewing your website ahead of time, it seemed more like a client education tool, not necessarily like an acquisition tool, like buy now, learn now, like become a partner of ours now. Like it seems more like here's a place where you can learn all about what we do. Yeah, maybe you can tell us like what are the major strengths or weaknesses of your website right now?
Yeah. So, what's interesting about this space that I've come, because I've been in healthcare for about 10 years, and I've been on several different facets of healthcare in general. And what's been interesting in the clearinghouse side is not a lot, but a fair amount of those that use a clearinghouse or have a clearinghouse in the back end, they actually don't know they have one. And it's been an education for some physicians that they didn't know they had one or didn't know they needed one.
Mhm.
It is fully possible to do what we do yourself, but it is a time-consuming, exhausting um, task that if you're already seeing patients and trying to run a clinic, especially if you're a smaller operation, that's overwhelming. And then on the flip side, if you're a really large scale operation, you're dealing with thousands and thousands of claims all the time, also overwhelming. So even though we are necessary, it's not always seen as necessary because they just don't know that we're here. So education is huge. Our call to action is essentially we want people to step in and get a demo. We want to be able to have the opportunity where they get to talk to one of our sales team. They get to see what ClaimMD does, see inside of the tool, and really learn about us in a space where, again, it feels intimate. One of our actual sales reps are on the call. We are getting to have these conversations. They have an opportunity to either be a part of a webinar where multiple people can be from different organizations learning about us and still ask questions, or they might want to do a one-on-one, and it's all free, and it's simply to be able to just interact with us and see what the tool does and if we're a fit. So that's a big part of what our website is for, is that opportunity to educate on the front end of what is a clearinghouse, who we are and what we do and how we can help you, but also an opportunity to sign up for a demo and make that deep dive happen where you can really see if we're going to be a fit for you with an actual person. So that's what our website is for. As far as strengths go, I would say our strength, the biggest one, is that opportunity for a free demo. It brings the human element, I think, back into a website where, how many times have we been on? You look at your history throughout the day of a website, how many websites you've been on throughout the day, and it's just you and the screen, and there's no human interaction really
Right.
happening. And this is an opportunity to really bring that back into websites for people to learn about us. It can be overwhelming, I think, to try and search through a website for the information you're looking for, and being
Always.
able to present people, yeah, it's like, okay, there's 18,000 links on here and I don't know which one's going to have the right information I need. So this is an opportunity for us to be able to do that. Now, as far as weaknesses go, we're actually addressing that right now. As far as building a new website, we're in the process of launching a new one that should be coming very soon. I want to say within the next month, but don't quote me on that. However, basically to give it kind of a facelift and make it a little bit more, I don't know, modern, if you will, that really reflects everything that ClaimMD is getting to do as far as our growth that has been rapid. We wanted to make sure that we put a new face out there that's still going to give everything that we've been giving to up until this point, but just a little bit more fresh faced, a little bit more new.
Nice. Awesome answer. And I want to ask a quick follow-up. You had mentioned that one of the best parts of the website is being able to book that demo and speak directly to a member of the sales team and kind of get the ins and outs of the tool itself. On these demos or on these sales calls, what are some of the most frequent, let's say, pain points that the team is hearing from the doctors or the medical professionals that you're speaking with? Like, what are the things that are driving them to speak with your team in the first place?
Mm. And that's a really great question because our leadership, Rob, who is our president, the creator, the founder of ClaimMD, his heart is always, he wants to ask, what is your pain? And he will ask that
Mhm.
on any front, but especially, of course, in ClaimMD, what is your pain and how can we make it, how can we make it stop hurting?
Mhm.
So it kind of depends on if somebody has a clearinghouse or if they don't, as far as the pain points go. I would say that if they don't have a clearinghouse, a lot of it is delays in claims. ClaimMD came from a story when Rob first built it because there was a provider who was he was doing cataract surgery back in the 80s, and it was a very lucrative business, but he would wait 9 months to get a claim paid. So here he is having to keep the lights on, payday is every Friday, and he's waiting 9 months to get paid. That's all coming out of his pocket. That problem we still can see today, even though we have moved into this electronic data interchange now, EDI, which is what we do. We still see that problem of delays in payments, denials in payments. So these providers and these physicians are having to kind of discover why am I being denied and why is this payment delayed, which can be very painful because again, payment might slow down but payday does not.
Mhm.
The bills don't stop coming, and so this expedites the process for them. This can really streamline for them to be able to make these payments happen faster. We scrub claims is what we call. So if you upload a claim into ClaimMD and you fill it out, it's a fast process. We tell you when there's an error before you send it so that we catch it before you have this denial, before that payment is delayed. And we have really found a nice balance of too much scrubbing where things are being denied when they shouldn't be, and you're having problems show up that aren't really there, and then making sure that they're clean enough to go out that they will be accepted by the insurance companies. If you do have a clearinghouse, sometimes one of the biggest things that I like to brag on about ClaimMD that we hear is we have a human touch here. Our support team is all in-house. You will be talking to people that are here inside of ClaimMD, dealing with the system every day that know it very intimately. And again, with all of this technology that we are moving so rapidly towards and trying to keep up with, sometimes I think we lose the human element. And we've managed to keep that on the support side. So if somebody is feeling lost, they know where to go to. And that seems to be a big pain point for a lot of people with their clearinghouses, aside from the denials, aside from the claims needing to be paid, aside from streamlining this process, which we still do for those groups. um, we want it to be quick, but we also want you to be able to talk to somebody and really get an answer that is not just your standard, okay, this is in a help desk somewhere and maybe you'll find it, maybe you won't. We're there as human beings, and I think that people really appreciate that they get their problem solved in
Yeah,
that
it,
way.
it sounds like this is kind of like an emotional process that the providers are probably in already. Just dealing with insurance. Am I going to get paid out for this? Am I not? How long is it going to take? You don't need to provide any more stress to the situation. So being able to like talk to a person, figure it out, get to the bottom of it, streamline the
Right.
situation. Sounds like something that's really, really helping them out. So I totally get it. I want to move the conversation a little bit away from ClaimMD and a little bit more over to Stephanie as the marketing professional that way. So maybe you can tell us, not specifically about the ClaimMD website, but websites in general. What do you think makes for a great converting website? Like, are there any sort of tips, methods, approaches that you might recommend when putting together a great converting website?
Yeah. So I have a background in psychology, and something that we spoke a lot about is something called chunking. The human brain can only take in so much, especially at a time. And I think that there is a pressure when you're building a website to try and provide all of the answers all the time right there on the website, and finding this balance of what is too much information and what is not enough information. You want people, of course, to approach you and ask questions, and especially in our space where we want people to book demos, we want them to start engaging with the sales team and actually get this process going. Um, we we want to give them enough information where they know what we do and who we are and how we do things without overwhelming them. And so in the process of chunking things, you give the human brain only enough information that relates enough to itself that they can take it in and really absorb it and appreciate and understand what they are reading. You ever been reading a book or a page where it's so dense and you're like, I need to read this 3 more times because I have no idea what I read? Kind of like that on a website. I know that sometimes you go to a website and there's 1,000 different links under a drop down. You're like, I don't even know where to start learning about this. And sometimes it's a necessary evil if you have a very, very complicated, robust organization system. Maybe you have several different products that you need to learn. But finding the simplicity in your messaging as far as navigation for people and the user experience not being overwhelming, the information they're taking in not being overwhelming, I think that that really helps. Of course, we want all the movement on the website. We want that interaction, but simplicity in messaging and copy, and then simply also not overwhelming your user with too many flashy things going on where it still has life. And again, finding that balance of not too much life and movement where it's distracting, and then not being so stale that nothing is engaging to the mind and to the brain that you actually want to be on this website. So I think a lot of it becomes about balance to me.
I think that's
There's
a good
nothing.
answer, and I
Thank you.
think I will add. I think I will add chunking to my personal life as well. Like,
Yes.
whenever I'm trying to do too much at once, sometimes I put way too much on my own like to do list, or sometimes I put way too much on like myself to accomplish something. Let's say like over the weekend, like, oh, you only have so much time during the week. I want to accomplish these kinds of things in the weekend. Like, maybe keep it simple. Maybe
Right.
organize it. Maybe let's keep chunking in mind and think, okay, let's accomplish these related tasks and leave the other things for another time. So, yeah, I
Right. Don't
think
overwhelm yourself.
this balance idea using chunking, it's something that I'll remember moving forward for sure. Um,
Wonderful.
Staying on the topic of Stephanie, the marketing professional, maybe you can tell us a little bit about like what does a day to day work like, or should I say, what does day-to-day work look like for you? Like, are there any typical tasks that you're working on every single day? Are there any typical like reports, or what does an average marketing day look like for Stephanie?
I feel like there are always the day-to-day things that have to be kind of babysat. You have all of your ads that you have to check in on. So what I try to do is in the morning, before people get into their days and they start needing me for different things, or I'm getting emails, or I'm making any kind of connections with new people. I try to use that morning to be able to review analytics. I'm optimizing ads. I'm going through what's being successful and what's not, those kind of things. And Google Analytics, of course. So I'm kind of living in that ad space in the morning, which is my typical starting the day off. I'll go and, check emails and whatnot. And then what I like to do if I'm having time outside of meetings, is try and find places where I can find connection.
Hmm.
I mentioned earlier, as far as conferences go, finding new places and conferences that we can start to partner with. A lot of these groups, you can join as an association member. You can start finding new places for ads. Some big publications that we love, I'll try and connect with those and start to make those relationships. ClaimMD is a very relational company, and I think that that's why I thrive here. Is I find myself to be a very relational person, and so finding these places where I can connect with people and really make these relationships, bring them in house. And that can lead to content creation where we start co writing blogs together. That might lead to seeing somebody at a conference and we have a booth that is in proximity that we can kind of work together. All those sort of things, as far as just that initial kind of taking that step to make this connection, I have found always ends up paying off on the end, where I discover new opportunities as far as conferences that I didn't know
Same.
about, or
Me
somebody,
too.
yeah, somebody might invite me to go do something that I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was an option." But just by saying hello and opening a door somewhere, or just like knocking and saying hi, that's where I think I found so many new pathways for us to explore that otherwise wouldn't have happened. So that's what I like to spend a lot of my time doing, is trying to find new connections or making connections with groups that we already partner with, some of our EHRs and EMRs that we work with, that we've integrated with. I might reach out to somebody on their team just to see how they're doing, see what their pain points are inside of there that we already have a relationship with, and just check in on them. So I think really capitalizing on, again, I keep saying it, relationships.
Hmm.
We're so focused on automating so many things, which is wonderful because we can get those tasks out of the way, but don't lose this element of authenticity and humanity in all of the automation and all of the extra help that we are getting from these wonderful tools.
Yeah,
That this,
I couldn't agree more.
yeah, it makes space to be able to do this. So take advantage of it.
Yeah, totally. I know over here, one of the things that I focus on my day to day is working with our digital marketing agency partners. They always need a need for a PathMonk's tool to help increase conversions for their clients. But these connections, these relationships that you establish with all of these different technology partners or agency partners, it might seem like it's small, but these things pay off in a big way, and you learn new things from a lot of new people, and yeah,
Right.
leverage those networks. It find the, I guess I would say, vulnerability to understand, like, they might know something that you don't, and there's always an opportunity to learn something right around the corner if you're just willing to, like you said, knock on the door and ask. So yeah, really, really good answer.
Beautifully put, though, in response, though. That's absolutely true. Of
Yeah,
is
I would agree.
somebody can everybody can teach you something, even if it's something totally random that you might think you never use again.
Yeah, take
Just be
it.
open to it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, take it. Just take it.
Okay, so the next question, I know that a lot of people out there are always looking to kind of improve upon themselves, grow, learn, and there's a lot of different places that we can go to kind of consume this type of content. I know for me personally, like, I'm always keeping an eye on LinkedIn, and leveraging the network and the people that I know, similar to our last question. But where is it that you go to kind of like stay up to date and to grow and learn and improve upon yourself as a marketing individual?
Yeah, and it can be overwhelming, I think, because there's so many different channels. So finding ones that really speak to you and that you like. I've listened to there's a couple podcasts that I'll listen to. I've tried out a few, and if it doesn't work for you and it's not like gelling with you, then just leave that content, because you won't read it, you won't check it, you'll subscribe to the newsletter, you'll have the podcast popping up, and you won't pay attention to it. I like the Morning Brew. That was one that was recommended to me that I get it in my mailbox. It's designed really nicely that um, the stories in it are really easy for me to go, okay, I like this one, I like this one. Of course, LinkedIn. Um, I had one in my brain that I just totally forgot. Hang on one second. What was it? I had one that I literally like go and check all the time. Well, nuts.
We'll remember it. You'll remember it
Uh,
10 minutes
yeah,
after
I'll
the call.
remember it after we're done with this call, and then I'll be like, I don't. Yep, that was a good one. That's where I like to go. Um, Fudge. That's annoying. Right on my brain. What are the channels you go to learn stuff? Oh, that's back. Okay, I'm recording. um, I also really enjoy going to places that offer courses for things. So YouTube, of course, has a lot of free ones. Sometimes you can pay for them, but Udemy, however you pronounce it, people say
Yeah,
it different
yeah,
ways,
yeah.
and Coursera, they both have really wonderful courses that you can connect with people, and just whether it's getting a refresher or there's always new ones being updated. That it's essentially for me. I was a nerd in school. I did really well in school. So going to that space again and getting to be a student is where I find myself really being able to take information in and learn new things really effectively. So, really, there's a couple of newsletters, there's a couple of podcasts for me, of course, LinkedIn, and then these opportunities for future education in those sites. Ultimately, find what works for you and then go and do it and make
I
it a
would
habit.
I would agree because I've tried some of those myself and it didn't work for me.
Right.
It just seemed like that wasn't. I've tried Coursera. I've tried a couple of those other kind of like online courses, and they have like tons of different topics and tons of different categories, right? Lots of
Yeah.
really great professionals that are running some of those courses, but it didn't seem to kind of click for me. And whether it was because of the, let's say, platform that it was happening on or whatever. Usually I'm the type of guy that needs to fail at something like 20 times before he finally learns and understands it fully on the 21st time. But
Tenacity. That's
yeah,
okay.
but like I said, or like you said, figure out what works for you, and those are some awesome recommendations.
Thank
I
you.
want to move on to the final kind of stage of the conversation, and the
Yeah.
next few questions are a little bit more like rapid fire round. We're looking for like short, crisp, concise answers. The first thing that comes to the top of your head. But obviously, if you really like the question, you want to spend a little bit more time. Of course, I'm not going to stop you. So I'll get you started with the first one. Nice and easy. What's the last book that you read?
I read two, so I'm going to do my smart book first, and then my fun book. First one was 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. 15 laws. Hang on, I have it here. The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. It's that one word that
Hmm.
trips me up. It's a John Maxwell book. Highly recommend him for anything leadership focused, for anything working on yourself. And then the other book I read is called Batavia's Graveyard. It's a wonderful historical book about a mutiny that took place that I've never heard of before, that was wild. Pirates, all kinds of fun things, but it actually translates really beautifully into some lessons for today. So highly recommend both 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth and Batavia's Graveyard. Very, very different.
Yeah, pirate mutiny and self
Right,
growth. Nice. Yeah,
right.
you can
And
see
both
how they
can be
relate.
married together. Don't
Yeah,
be a pirate, grow.
yeah.
So
Okay, next one. This one's a little bit more out there. If there were no boundaries in technology, and I'm talking, snap your finger, anything is possible, right? What would be one thing that you would want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today?
This might be something more personal, but remarketing campaigns, I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes they've become comical for people where, we're talking about pots and pans and now your Facebook is completely inundated with pots and pans. I would love for it to be meaningful remarketing where it's not just because I Googled something for somebody else and was helping them out that now I'm being smothered by whatever it was that I searched for them. And now
Okay.
for the next 3 weeks, I'm dying because I'm so sick of seeing these ads. I would love for that to be fixed where the remarketing was always um, the thing, which from a company side, I get why we do it, but I think it kind of becomes background noise to users after a little while. So if
Oh,
it
I
was a
agree.
little bit more purposeful, where it didn't drive people nuts or make it a joke,
Yeah,
that would be great.
meaningful. Yeah, some sort of like, I guess like the technology is able to somehow recognize what you actually care about and what you don't
You're
actually care
right.
about.
The intent behind it of I was helping out my brother finding a couch. I don't need you to show me every single couch on the internet
Yeah,
now. I'm
yeah,
that would be awesome if we could do that. From both again, from the marketing side of it's not wasted money and content being sent out to somebody that didn't really need to see it. And from me as the user, I don't need to see another couch.
Yeah,
So thank you.
maybe AI is closer to figuring out than we realize. Maybe that's right around the corner, or maybe not. But either way, that's definitely a technology that I would like to see as well. Okay,
Right.
next one. If there was one repetitive task that you could automate out of, I'm sure there are quite a few repetitive tasks that you have. What would be the one that you want to automate?
Probably reporting, which I'm sure everybody says. Because mostly because I think we have to go to so many different spaces to pull that information out and then put it. And of course, there are apps and programs that we can do that. But um, making the reporting all come together and then making it be actionable and understandable, so that we look at this reporting, we can see what we really learned from it, aside from any outliers or any weird things that happened, and then making it meaningful so that we can act on it. That would be super cool. But, you know,
Definitely would, but yeah, reporting and attribution, bringing it all into one place, nice and easy.
yeah.
Yeah, that would make my life a lot easier.
Okay.
Okay, so the last question: what is one piece of advice that you would want to give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer today?
I was, and I've always been, and I'm probably still a perfectionist at heart. I was an art kid a long time ago, and I would tell my younger self, don't be so afraid to fail that you don't make any movement at all, that you don't try. Which might be a very cliche thing to even say, but I know for me, I wanted things to be so perfect in my attempts that asking for things, or needing something from leadership, or being brave enough to try something, it didn't work out, spend the money, don't be reckless with it, don't be irresponsible, of course, but not being so afraid to make a movement on my own because somebody didn't give me a thumbs up, a go ahead, and because it might not be perfect. Just try different things. It might be completely out of the box. It might be something that it sounds like a crazy idea. It's a super, kind of unrelated thing that you might not even think is going to work. But the worst that's going to happen is that it doesn't work, and then you go into a different direction. And I don't think I appreciated that concept of it's not failure. You're just changing directions, and it's not you failing, it's just this thing didn't work. So I would tell myself to lighten up on me, lighten up on the tasks that you are trying, and be bold, just,
Yeah, and
and
take
I'm
some chances. I like that.
yeah,
Really
take the
well said.
chance. Thank you. I
Really well
appreciate
said.
it.
Well, with that, we're wrapping up the call. So I just want to say, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining today. We really enjoyed having you. Thank you so much. But before we sign off, why don't you give our audience one more, a little bit of background about ClaimMD? Why don't you tell our audience one more time what's ClaimMD all about and how can they find you?
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate again you having me on here. This was a blast. You were awesome, and I am so excited to have been able to spend this time with you.
Great.
ClaimMD is a medical claims clearinghouse. You can find us on www.claim.md. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, pretty much all socials. Um, we would love to be able to make those connections and start the conversation with you today as well about your claims clearinghouse if you need one or
Awesome.
need to make a change.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Appreciate having you on. Have an awesome day.
Thank you, you too.